See that hawk? You can hear another one over there. I'm freaking, folks. It's one of those beautiful November summer days. It's going to be 23 degrees C. It's morning now. I think it's about 18. So it's in the 60s. It's really beautiful. And I always have this sense of romance, like having a crush on a girl when you're a teenager. I get this feeling in my tummy when the weather's like this and it's just so beautiful out and I'm riding my bicycle around. I just feel like a kid. It's just a beautiful feeling, I gotta say. So my battery's getting low. Just gonna do a ride and talk. Yeah, I'm kind of coming to the end of an era. Hola, bom dia. So, I think I'm gonna stop uploading to the channel I've been uploading to, and I'm going to cop a niche. And it's going to be about ecological economics, economia in the kind of Greek sense or holistic sense, regenerative economics, ideas like that. Clive Spash is somebody I've been reading a lot of recently. And I really like that guy. Every time I make a video and I talk about politics and things, I always talk about how we need a new social system, social economic system, and so on. And how everything's kind of dependent on that. How do you get there without having a revolution, a violent revolution, all that kind of thing. And, without changing our social economic belief system and getting away from the way we do things now, things are only going to get worse. So you notice from the election that it doesn't really matter if it's blue or red. The billionaires run the show, run the game. Not just the billionaires, but just the whole system. Big business, maybe. I know it's cringeworthy when you say big this, big that. I'm a big fan of big nature, but the fact is that capital is coded by law, the legal code. And people make laws. People with power, with influence, with money can influence and control the lawmakers. And this is just a fact of life. And you can read about things like this going back to the ancient Greeks and Romans, who talk about corruption and whatnot. So nothing's new. You go back 15 years or whatever, look at the Young Turks or anybody, any content producer or Analysis News, Paul Jay, or Democracy Now, or any of the news networks, any of the cable news networks, and it's the same stories over and over again, rehashed, repackaged. Nowadays with social media, people repackage things very quickly based on what the audience is interested in. So I've often said that we're slaves to fashion. And so if something becomes cool in the in all these internet bubbles and whatnot, in the media, in the zeitgeist, the cultural zeitgeist, all the content producers, a lot of reporters, a lot of people who talk about things who don't have a real ideology, and they don't have any real ideas or any convictions of any sort, principles or whatever that they live by, they will change their tune. So Joe Rogan will be a Bernie bro, and then he'll turn into a Trump supporter, and it's not like Trump changed his spots or anything. It's just that his audience is into that now, so he goes that way. It's just typical. Nowadays, if the conservatives always complain that the liberals own everything, and what they're really talking about is neoliberalism, but liberals for them is just coded for the culture war issues, wokeism and postmodernism and anything having to do with Karl Marx. But they're all the same. They're neoliberal, neoconservative. That's their philosophy, their worldview. It's a huge bucket. It's a huge umbrella term to break down. There's a lot of things in there. But basically, whether they're Keynesian or, Hayek or whatever influences their economic thinking from their education in economics, they're they have to be pro-business, which means obviously it includes colonialism, all kinds of things. I should just stop now because that's a huge subject. Anyway, that's what they are. They're all beholden to big money, big donors. And I think some of these people are so steeped in this ideology, this belief system, like when they rehash the Monroe Doctrine, the Trump people. My God. Anyway, they're so steeped in it, I don't think they even realize why they believe what they believe, but they think it's kind of an absolute truth, right? Their belief system is just like as true as concrete is hard or as water is wet. So they're true believers, and they're passionate about it, and they're paid to believe. They get rewarded, incentivized. So they're not going to think differently about anything, ever. And that permeates the whole global economy. So just in case you think that I think Russia's better than something, or China's better than something, or BRICS is better than something, I don't, because all of these ways of doing things are so similar. The differences obviously are there, but it's still the same thing. You know, it's consumer society. It's a global economy. So all of these factions are fighting over influence and resources. And again, I always use the term the great game. You know, young husband, things like that. All these colonial projects existed, all of these East India companies existed, and so on. If you have the guns and the power, you can go to any country in the world and take their shit and corrupt people, because people are easy to corrupt. We want things, we want power, we want attention, we want status, we want money, and we have rivals, we have competition. So if somebody who's powerful comes along, even when Cortez was going into Mesoamerica, he had powerful native allies when he was going up. I don't know, was it Cortez? Anyway, when they were going up towards Mexico City. And that city was huge, and it was very powerful at the time, but they were able to make a deal with the leader, which led to the downfall of the culture. Was it Aztec, Mayan, whatever. But same thing with the French-Indian Wars and so on. The British and the French had allies with native groups. At the end of the day, the natives get displaced, wiped out, and the new group comes in. This has happened throughout history, especially since, you know, large-scale civilizations came about. So we're kind of stuck in this thing, and it's almost impossible for normal people to imagine something else, because they're not, it's not their fault, they're just not that well read, and they're not that interested in these kinds of things. So they don't know about it, they're not conscious of it or aware of it. And so you have a bunch of elites. And I would consider Clive Spash an elite as well, because you know, he's an academic and he has lots of experience in his field, and he's a professional, and so on and so forth. And a lot of the other guys who were on Wall Street, you know, you got to have credentials. Even Jamie Wheal and people as cool as that, you know, work for all the big corporations. They consult for them. And so they're cool, they got creds. Creds are really important in religion and in life, credentials. So, you know, you have to have reasons to believe these people. And so these elites have their conversation about ideas, things that could be done, solutions. You have lots of greenwashing, climate channels where they talk about all the cool engineering and technological fixes that are coming down the pike. So don't worry too much about stuff. We don't have to change anything. We don't have to update our life, our way of doing things, because, you know, it's going to be fixed. The billionaires, the technologists, the engineers, the MITs, whatever, they're going to come up with answers, material science, science-based medicine, all that stuff. And we're going to be just fine. And I guess what that means is we can go on, the North, especially the global North, can go on using lots and lots and lots of energy to create lots and lots and lots of things to enjoy. And somehow that can go on forever. Well, limits to growth, Club of Rome, all these different groups. People have talked about that. Even Malthusian philosophy, he gets denigrated a lot, but his later work had some incredibly good points in it. Population is an issue. Resource depletion is an issue. Destruction of habitat, sixth extinction, as I always say, are issues. But you want to make a living, so you're not going to suggest that what's feeding you now is something you want to get rid of or change. It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to be a revolutionary. You're not going to sacrifice your livelihood, especially if it's hard won on Substack or YouTube. You don't have like a regular salary. You didn't inherit money. You don't have a big stock and bond portfolio. So you actually need every penny you get from your audience. And you want to sell books and so on. So you have to be careful, So if you want to get rich, you've got to join the status quo, and you've got to be a slave to fashion. You have to be cool. So if coolness is some form of bizarre conservatism, hearkening back to Plato or something, or Thomas Aquinas, or Elizabethan England, something like that, and the cool kids are doing it, you'll go there, and maybe if it defends the status quo, business as usual, the making of big bucks for wealthy people, you'll get a wealthy donor or some corporate donors that will help you make a living producing content that all of us can just sit and watch. And we're going to become the audience. We're going to sit and watch. We're going to be monetized, our data, our habits. We're going to be marketed to. Everyone's going to make shitloads of money off of our constantly evolving sense of fashion and what's popular and what's hip and cool. And things are going to continue as they are. And if that's great for you, then that's fine. We just keep going. But the truth is, we're coming up against some seriously civilization-threatening problems, and they need to be solved. But beyond that, who cares? We got 100 years, let's say. So what do I care? But things in life, I don't think, and I have good reasons to believe this, but I'm just one guy, are not going to get any better today, tomorrow, the next day. Things aren't going to get cheaper. You're not going to get, normal working people aren't going to get wealthier. Housing isn't going to get better. We're going to have problems, and these wars are going to spin out of control. I mean, with the new administration now coming in next year, it's funny, in America you have an election and then it takes a month or so before the new guy comes in. Such a weird country, really. We think the Constitution, the way we do business in America, is like God's truth, it comes down from on high. It's got a lot of flaws, a lot of room for reform, but we don't even think so. We think it's perfect, even though we complain about it all the time. Anyway, the new administration is full of war hawks, just like the Biden administration was. People tend to believe that, it's somehow beneficial and smart to constantly have the same enemies for decades. China, Iran, Russia. And if anything happens to create better relationships with those countries, they get torpedoed because for a lot of crazy, insane reasons, neocons and neoliberals need to have this enmity. It's a kind of fuel for business. You know, the whole idea of tariffs and all this, Geopolitical Economy Report did a good piece on that. I wish people would watch. I put it on Globe Hackers Facebook. But this is all nonsense and full of contradictions. And we think these people are the smartest people in the room, are somehow going to save us, and it's just ridiculous. They're not. So life's going to get tough. The weather's not going to get better. In other words, it's not going to be predictable anymore. And eventually, we are headed to 3C above the baseline, and that is going to be devastating to our way of life, to human civilization. And we don't have to talk about peak oil or anything. The tech optimists are going to tell you that we have fusion energy is just around the corner. Another 5 years and $5 billion, and we'll nail it. And I have another metaphor that I want to write about, which is the wolf or the fox in the hen house. So somehow the hens, us chickens, became really good friends with the fox. And we think the fox has our best interest at heart. And the fox seems to do nice things for us every once in a while. Maybe the fox gives us some food, and we like it. So we think the fox is our friend. And one day we wake up and one of our buddies is missing. And we wonder what happened. We say, just disappeared. Must have run away or passed away or something. Who knows? Mysterious. This keeps happening until all the hens are gone except for one. And that hen is just completely shocked. It was like a frog in boiling water, you know, bit by bit all the other hens disappeared, and pretty soon he's the only one. He's talking to the fox. And the fox just grins and smiles ear to ear and looks at the hen and says, "Hell, all this time you guys are just food for me." And the hen looks like, "Say what?" And then the fox eats the last hen. So what happens to the fox? Well, it's just like in a normal world governed by nature and not by neoliberals and neoconservatives. When all the gazelle population is too low to feed a pride of lions, the lions have to go somewhere else, or they die off, and the herd comes back again. But in this case, we're at the end of this game, and we've done so many things to fuck things up that it's untenable for the herd to maintain itself, much less come back. So we're the fox, and when the fox has killed everything that it depends on, what happens to the fox? It starves to death, and it's a miserable way to die. Basically, the elements, nature, you know, you're out there, you get hypothermia, the water kills you, the cold kills you, the heat kills you, heat stroke. Yeah, the elements, nature, not by any sense of will or volition, anything fancy, comes along and puts an end to our civilization and eventually to our species. Meanwhile, a lot of people are just waiting around like they have for thousands of years for some magic to happen. Jesus or somebody, some prophet, savior is going to come and fix everything. And God loves you so much that, you know, for thousands of years there's just been pain and suffering and horror and war and torture and mayhem and starvation And it hasn't ended, even with all of our technology and engineering. It's very odd that we believe all this shit. It's really fucking strange. I don't get it. I'm gonna go back this way because I don't have much battery. So, but we do, and like I say, most of us just aren't aware of things. We're not that well read, have other things to worry about, and I don't blame anyone for not thinking like I think. But anyway, that was a long preamble. So I'm going to focus my niche on something, and in particular within this domain of interest, which is what I said earlier, ecological economics, but in a more Greek sense of the word, or regenerative economics. There's other movements like that around. You know, I Spash critiques donut economics and things like that, because basically it's just pro-growth, business as usual, but with something nice attached to it. So it's kind of like economic washing, like greenwashing. So I'm going to focus on talking about that, pointing out information, research, people, probably try to get some people who are actually smart to talk to me about it, if I can get a following, and focus on that. And then as an adjunct to that, I want to focus on what people could do to create a mass movement that would advocate for these ideas and for a radical change in the world. In China, in Russia, in Africa, in India, all over the place, in Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Japan, to make a shift, because we don't have much time, actually, and maybe some people are interested in really doing something about this. And you know, if they are, that's awesome. And maybe there are ways we can do this that we can afford. In other words, we'll have time that we can invest in these processes, in these activities, and we'll have a tiny bit of money to invest in it, and so on and so forth. Because big business and the billionaires aren't going to give us a dime. You won't get any money from Peter Thiel unless you can convince Peter Thiel that, well, this movement's going to be excellent for you, because then you can push back against it, and it'll provide a focus of your ire. That's stupid, because anything that does gain power and influence in the world will be shut down. You have to look at the labor movement in the 19th, 20th century and see how violently those movements were put down, especially in the Anglosphere, in England or Britain and the United States. The capitalists, the robber barons, the whatever you want to call them, they can be very rough, man, very violent, very murderous. Look at all the things that have happened in Central America. You know, American University, this thing where you're training insurgents, and you know, anything that left of center of business is going to be violently put down, whether you're in Chile or Guatemala or Nicaragua or El Salvador, anywhere. Cuba, obviously, Venezuela. The Trump folks are going to try to kill Venezuela. They're going to try to kill it. They want the oil. Syria, you know, you have illegal military formations in Syria, and it's just normal. We can do that because we're the creators of the rules-based order, which means we make the rules any way we see fit to make them. Period. Full stop. Deal with it. Oh, nice horse. Hello, pony. Oi. So Yeah, COINTELPRO and stuff like that. Things that we know are for real and well documented, researched, and written about. But we just forget about them. We have short memories and we don't care that much. And, well, that's the way it is. That's the way they do things, man. And as long as we're happy, we don't care that much. So I was in Amsterdam, and then they had this riot with the football hooligans, and that gets spun around on its ear. But anyway, I'm in Amsterdam. I'm thinking in Holland, going around to towns and stuff, and thinking, man, this is culty happy. It's like utopia here. Well, people are making enough money. They have enough, and they're pretty happy, and they live in a tolerant, secular society, and they get along pretty well, and everybody's kind of happy, and you're thinking, wow, this is really nice, And of course, as long as they have enough imports, stuff that they can get to fuel Philips and their companies and to fuel their agriculture and other things, right? As long as they have enough of those resources, they're going to be happy. The minute they don't, things are going to get less happy, or maybe even nasty. So for now, they're very lucky, and they're not going to think about things like I want to focus on. Social, ecological economics, for example. Because everything's going pretty good. Why should we worry about that? We can put a Palestinian flag on our window and show solidarity with the Palestinians, and it makes us feel good. And it's a virtue signal, a moral signal, and that's enough. At some point, actually, we're going to have to fight for shit. Oh, another hawk. God, I'm seeing a lot of them today. I'm so happy about that. I always get scared that the birds of prey are disappearing. So that's not a good sign, right? When the apex predator in an ecosystem goes away, it means there's nothing else below it to eat. So anyway, yeah, at some point we're going to have to fight just to eat. And it's going to be hard, and it's coming sooner than you may think. And a lot of people around the world, even in the United States, are already in that position. Some guy on the 49ers was in Union Square, and somebody tried to rob him, and he got shot. He's a football player, in the chest. Somehow it wasn't that bad a wound, and he was able to come back and play football yesterday. So lucky guy. But why are people getting shot in Union Square in San Francisco? There's got to be reasons for this. So, and it's not just criminals and immigrants. That's nonsense. It's red herring, smoke and mirrors. It's garbage. The deep reasons require us to change very profoundly, and call it a paradigm shift or a phase transition, whatever, however you want to couch it. At some point, circumstances will force us to shift, because we'll have to, and then we'll wish we knew primitive survival skills, how to make a flint stone knife, and how to make a fire. Obviously, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen any time very, very soon, but it's on its way. And when things collapse, they collapse gradually at first and then all at once, like Hemingway said about bankruptcy. You can put it off only so long. At the end of the day, the laws of nature, not the theories, the way it actually works, kicks in, as it always does anyway, because it's there all the time. Ecology is the base of everything, because we live in a very uniquely living system. We call it life. And you know, you can talk about entropy and thermodynamics. It's all very interesting. But it's a unique situation. We need all this stuff to exist. Life begets life. Life is the currency of life, not time. Time is an abstract concept that we think about, and we need it for our mathematics and physics and so on. But my cat doesn't think about time. My cat notices daylight and darkness and, you know, these normal things. So some guy was saying that, you know, when you want to navigate without a compass, what you have to do is look at the trees. Which way are they facing? Like that tree is faced over there, that's south, right? And what part of the puddle dries up first, and so on. Shadows, you know, signs in nature that will tell you a cardinal direction. And then you know, well, that's south, so I can guess that this is north, east, and west. And you can figure shit out and kind of navigate that way. We use stars and stuff like that, sextants. But anyway, animals probably just don't think much about time, right? They don't keep diaries and calendars and whatnot. So without life, you don't have life. Life begets life, feeds on life, all those chemical processes and energy processes. It's just a fact. It's reality. People don't want to learn about reality, which is sad, because reality is pretty damn fascinating. As far as I'm concerned, reality is fascinating. So I think it's time to learn about these things, to think about economics in a completely different way, economia, and to get out of this insanity, this sickness, this pathological, ideological, social disease that we're all wallowing in and thinking it's normal. Bom dia. So, and we're going to have to take power, unfortunately. We're going to have to take power away from those people that want to keep things as they are. And they're not going to like it. They're going to want to kill us, destroy us. And we live in a surveillance society. I mean, everything we do can be watched, especially in the West and China and places like Russia. You know, I mean, all of us are under surveillance voluntarily. We click yes on the approve on the user agreement, right? And there's no way out of that. Unfortunately, it's too late now. The systems are in place. The only thing that can kill the systems is if the grid goes down, and nobody wants that. In the old days, we surveilled each other, and we had gossip, you know, and we had trust and lack of trust. Nowadays, corporations buy and sell data, and they use it on us. So, there's no way out of that. So we're going to have to figure out how to use the infrastructure ourselves in sly and powerful ways to develop a mass movement that's international. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that you're not going to have your little country where everyone's like you and believes like you, and the world just leaves you alone because they don't want your lithium. They want you to have your little intentional community, because that's the way it is. They're going to come in, want your lithium, and they're going to hate you because you have an intentional community, because you have an identity, and they're going to use that identity of yours against you. You're a Protestant, you're a Catholic. which is the way we've done it forever, and that's not going to end. So unfortunately, that's not going to happen. We've been through that for thousands of years. Now we're in modern techno-industrial civilization, and that ain't going away until it dies or blows up, expires, or until we replace it with something else. And we're going to have to be powerful. We're going to have to take power, you know. And if all you want is to be given power, then you can be a slave to fashion and start a conservative media outlet that's all obsessed with woke. And you can go to a billionaire and get a handout. And then you could just blah, blah, blah all day long and add to the garbage and the noise in the world, the disgusting pathological noise. Diseased noise. So I don't know, maybe there's a few million people in the world that are interested in that. There's nothing else worth talking about as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I have hobbies and interests, but I think this is the most important thing in the world we could be thinking about and working towards, is a complete shift of our social economic system. And no amount of green tech or benevolent business people or philanthropy is going to help us until that thing is changed to something that works in harmony with nature, something holistic, something that obeys the law of big nature, and then we can find a way to live in harmony with that, you know? I don't know if 8 billion people can do that. I'm not sure. It depends on how they live, I guess. But that's important, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll finish my film, and then I'm going to try to get my series made, and I'll focus on that, and I'll focus on how we can be revolutionaries. But it has to be nonviolent, because you look back at history, violence never changed anything, really. I mean, yes, it does change things. You know, you have a civil war, and the North wins, and things change. That's a fact. War is war, and it's a thing. And we all know that. We're all fascinated by it, you know. Saving Private Ryan, heroes, Vikings. But it's not going to help us through what we need to get through now. Not, you know, the other thing that could help us is that we just let it all die. We accelerate, you know, anarcho-capitalism and accelerationism, and we just move as fast as we can till the whole thing blows up. And then everything just starts again. But if we do that, like Eric Lee points out all the time, we're just going to be evolving towards the same thing, only again, you know, let's make America omnicidal again, make civilization omnicidal again. If 5,000, you know, human beings survive and find a niche somewhere in the world where they can get enough food to eat and start to grow and start to expand and start to wander around the world to other ecological niches and start to fight one another over shit, and then we're going to be right back in the same situation that we just got out of. So it has to be a deep change. It has to be forward-looking for posterity. You have to say, you know, we're doing this for the future, not just for our own self-interest. Oh, I'm going to go the other direction. And there may be a few million people interested in that. So I would like to talk to those people, even if it never happens. I'm not going to make any friends talking about this shit, but maybe I have a few friends out there. who care about this stuff. I'm not going to be popular. I'm not going to, get money from Elon Musk. I would love to like trap Elon in a hotel in Morocco somewhere and just so he can't escape, and just like talk to him for a few days and say, "Are you for real, man?" It would be so weird. It's like talking to your dad. Your dad's been your dad since you were born, and he's never changed his political views ever, and he's very passionate about it. And you grow up and learn a thing or two and disagree, and you look at dad and you say, he's never going to change. It doesn't matter what I think, how much evidence I present, all in the family, Archie Bunker, whatever. It's like, yeah, so that's what I'm going to do, folks. So maybe I'll, every once in a while at this, what if, imagine that, I'll put up a video of Portugal, or a short video about something around here that's nice. But I'm going to move the rest of it over to Cospolon, to a YouTube channel there, and that's my Substack, Cospolon. And focus in on that niche. I think it's a good thing to do, and I don't see anyone doing that at the moment, so maybe it's something I can get a foothold in before I'm 70. Oh, life is fun. Anyway, wow, it's just beautiful, isn't it? Look at this freaking weather.